well, maybe we can start chatting about this as class. So, the earlier class was I'd rather than everyone get up and do that. Start telling them. I didn't.
Being dumped? That sucks. Having to continue seeing them flirt every day? Not helpful. Watching them casually flirt right in front of you? I want my money back! Nola was all I ever wanted in a girlfriend. She was beautiful, talented, cool, and independent. Very. And the breakup was completely destroying my psyche. I hated myself. More than that, I hated how fucking naive I was. It became clear to me after the fact that she was way out of my league to begin with. First, I should do a little retcon here. When we broke up, I jumped the gun a bit. I said that when I asked why she was breaking up with me, that she felt stagnant. What she actually said was, I don't know. And stuck with that story, I don't know. That's what was killing me. It wasn't losing her per se. It was finding this wonderful girl in college, and then it all ending without knowing why, very abruptly. It was traumatizing. And you know, it really took a toll on me. I cried some nights. I lost weight. I started getting spells of lightheadedness and feeling emotionally void. Now, all I wanted was an answer. A little something to help me cope, you know? Like how people in prison turn to God. So I went to my friends, you know, for reassurance, as you do after something like this, and see what they thought, and they were like, oh, it's another man. Yeah, obviously. Okay, I'll ask classmates, they know the two of us, and they were like, oh, do you think it's another man? Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, it's someone else. Yeah, really put me at ease. Thanks a lot, fuck you. But I have this one friend. I think we all have this person in our lives. That member of the opposite sex that we're really close to, we can go to confide in, get some advice. Mine was my friend Joe, who was studying psychology, which I figured would be pretty helpful in a situation like this. So I lay it all out, explain the situation to her, and she goes, oh yeah, no, there's another man. Which is a flawless impression of her. And I'm like, very helpful, Joe. Thank you. That really puts me at ease. But okay, look, I see her every day. I need advice going forwards. This is killing me. And she's like, well, okay, like, would you ever want to get back together with her? And I said, no, not wanting back. Obviously, she doesn't like me anymore. If we did date again, she'd break up for the same reasons, or whatever. So no, not want her back. Which was the first smart thing that went through my head on the matter. At least I knew that. So she says, well then you need some kind of closure, because we studied this stuff in school, and when something like this happens, like not knowing, it is the worst thing for you, seriously. Like it will literally make you kill yourself. And I think, yeah, you're gonna make a great psychologist. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, closure. That's what I need. I need some closure. So I bump into Nola in the hallway, and she's just like, oh, you took the red patch out of your hair. And I say, well, you know, it reminded me of someone. Which is true, because I kind of dyed my hair to impress her. But, you know, now I can just go back to coloring my hair in black, which is way easier, so that's great. And I say, look, we need to talk. And she agreed, oddly enough, because she totally could have just been like, no, we don't. So we went for a walk. And I asked her what I did or didn't do. Was it something I said? Was it my hobbies, my direction in life, or lack thereof? How could it change so abruptly? Was I really that unlikable? Was I so easily discarded? Joe was right. This was killing me. So I press her, and she's like, look, I don't know. What do you want from me? And I said, I want an answer. A real one. Why? And that's when she said that she felt stagnant. Which is also when I realized that I must just suck. And then she says, why don't we just go back to the way it was before we dated? Which is right up there with it's not you, it's me on the list of retarded shit someone says when they dump you, and I say there was no before we dated. We met, we flirted, we started going out. We never had a friendship. And so we went back to not having a friendship. So that week I had lunch with Cheesecake. He'd been coming to school less and less, it was just me and him. And I ended up rambling while he ate, saying like, well, I guess I should have known it wouldn't work out, and she never really seemed that interested in me as much as her art, which I admire in a way. Honestly, I feel like she hid our relationship. Like deep down, she was ashamed of it. And right then, he looks at me and he says, "I didn't even know you were dating." And that lunch was the last time I ever saw him. Not having closure eats you apart. It makes you question yourself. Am I broken? Am I undesirable? Am I worth being with at all? You become consumed with it, finding this answer. You want it so bad, but you don't get one. The only answer is how you cope with not getting one.
I feel crazy. What is happening to me?
This episode is, like the event it deals with, lengthy and painful, but something we just gotta get out of the way. Christmas break was in full swing. Nola was back home, so I missed her a lot, but I was keeping busy. I have all these Battletech and Warhammer miniatures cluttering my desk. That's gotta go, right? I want them painted and done by the time she gets back. All cleared off. I put a bunch of my time into my webcomic. I'll draw a stack of these things. Just get a nice buffer for when she gets back. Just put those up quick. Put away this fucking action figure shrine like I'm praying to the divine right of Spike Spiegel and his 12 plastic apostles. Nothing has ever changed in here. I felt stagnant back then, and I know I did. How can I be sure? Because I kept a journal in college. See? Right there. I'm sick of feeling stagnant. Is she seriously dating this fucking loser? How has she put up with this? 2006, baby. A whole new year, a whole new boyfriend. Cut to a couple days later. Talking to some classmates online, and oh shit, apparently, the school decides to fuck around with the classes. There were 4 classes before, but they were gonna shuffle them all around, mix up the rosters. This apparently is normal. Keeps people from getting too comfortable. It stops them from stagnating. Comfort kills. Variety is the impetus of creativity. But, uh-oh, artists are not always known for their social extroversion. I only had a couple of people I talked to, and class was the majority of the time I saw my girlfriend. Everyone was worried, no one knew what was going on, and nobody wanted to end up alone. Which is a pretty accurate description of life in general. January 9th. She comes back on the first day of second semester. I'm like the only guy there. I'm waiting, and her flight's in, and I'm waiting, and the taxi the plane still, and I wait, and the security gate opens, and I look up, and in a fraction of a second, I have 3 thoughts. The first thought was, oh, there she is back there. The second thought was, oh, god damn it! And that third thought was younger me talking to the second me saying, I told you so. So really it's like, I told you so. What did I tell me so? You remember. She's not coming back? Yeah. The human brain is a very complex device. Body language and all that shit is so intricate and nuanced that we can't really even understand it consciously. And the instant I saw her, I knew, that's not my girlfriend. And I don't mean in the replicant or body snatcher kind of way. That would have been much cooler. I mean the, she clearly doesn't want to see me, but I'm her ride back from the airport kind of way. Explaining the second thought, which was, as you recall, oh, god damn it! But hey, maybe I'm being paranoid, I think. So I walk up to her and lean in to kiss her hello, and she backs away. This is not a delightful callback to our first kiss. This happened. Red fucking flag. So the whole time I feel super weird. But after we get to class, we get the list sorted out, trying to understand who's in what class, and mine is split right down the middle, including Dave and the only other people I talk to. But Nola, thankfully, is in my class. At least I get to see her every day. That'll never become a problem. This is what we do. So, I call her up a few days later. Hey, you want to watch a movie? She's like, let's go for a walk instead. A walk? Okay. This was the coldest winter of my life. If you tripped and fell over, you'd have shattered like the T-1000. We weren't going on any walk. It's like our relationship is a sick dog. She's a farmer leading it behind the tool shed. Like, come on, buddy, let's go for a walk. So I thought, okay, let's go for a walk. Let's put this dog out of its misery, whatever. Now, you know those conversations. The ones where no one wants to get to the point, and it's just going nowhere, and you're sort of putting it off and humming and hawing. And so I ask, what's been bugging you? And she says, oh, you'll find out. Which is kind of threatening, but whatever. I'm just like, okay, can you speed it along and break up with me already? It's fucking freezing out here. And that's why I'm presenting it to you like this, not really a sad story, because you are feeling the same way I did. Okay, this is really obvious. It's coming. Just do it. Finally, there's this long silence, and she turns to me and breaks up with me. And this is how she did it. She shrugs. Like just, and not like, I think we should see other people, or I just don't feel the same way, or some shit like that. Not even words, just in that face, like, sorry. It's almost impressive. It's very honest. We both clearly knew what was going on. Why bother with words? So she shrugs, and I say, why? And she says, I don't know, which sucks. I don't know. But after that, she says, I feel stagnant. And I thought, wow, she's right. I know she's right. Because I called myself that. One day earlier. I was not exciting or spontaneous. But then she gives me, it's not you, it's me. It was amazing. It was like I was in a Seinfeld episode. Except both of us kind of realized how shitty it was. Like, as she was saying it, she was like, it's not you. Like, even she didn't. Like, of course, it's me. I meant to say, like, you know, don't give me that shit. But all I could get out was, don't. Fuck it, obviously it's me. So we get back to her place, and it's like, yeah, see you in class. Like, oh yeah, that's gonna be great. And I go, oh hey, your scissors. And I give her scissors. And she says, oh wow, you came prepared. Yeah, as if there was any question where this walk was gonna end up. I brought my glasses in case I cried my contact lenses out. Yeah, that's right, I fucking come prepared. So I drive down to the lake shore, and I think, I'll just be alone for a bit. Look out over the water. But yeah, after like 2 minutes of that, I'm like, okay, this is fucking retarded. And I take out my phone and I call a friend up and go, Robin and I, my friend Robin, he is no stranger to dealing with bullshit. And we're sitting down, I tell him, what the fuck is going on. He says, okay, your family and friends are gonna have a lot of intrusive fucking questions about how you feel and shit like that. First thing when you see them, tell them this. It's the middle of the night when I get home, and I think I'll just go fuck around online for a bit, whatever. When my sister comes downstairs, and right off the bat, she's like, so, how was your day with Nola? Jesus, like, at least give me tonight to sulk, would you? Fuck! So I tell her what Robin told me to say. Nola broke up with me. I don't want to talk about it. I'll bring it up when I'm ready. I'm not okay, but I will. And what else is there to say? But you know, really, the only bad part was that she was right. I was stagnating. She said I was bringing her down with me. Well, I can see why. This is not the change I was hoping for. Sorry that video took so long to come out, but it's here now, and so are technical day shirts, which you can buy from Redbubble. Go check them out if you want one. People have asked for them, so someone must fucking want them. Or go watch my new channel about gaming called Dave... Computer classes were a fucking joke when I was a kid. They weren't really seen as much more than electronic typewriters, and while that remains their primary use for a lot of people today, anyone using AOL for sure, they're a regular part of any modern art curriculum. Our lab was brand new. It was furnished with state-of-the-art, bleeding-edge Mac Pros, with cinema display. The lighting in the room was custom designed to imitate neutral daylight on all finished artwork, and the chairs were allegedly some kind of space-age shit that realigned your fucking vertebrae. Didn't stop them from having some shitty overhead projector that never fucking worked. You might be thinking, yeah, cool, they're gonna teach me to Photoshop like a mad cunt. I'll be making those crazy concept pieces that people cream their pants over in no time. You wish. See, you show up and it's like, okay, what are we gonna be learning here? Everyone pretty much has grown up with computers at this point, so it's gonna be some really high-tech shit, right? But no, it's not. The idea is that they just get everyone on the same page, which sounds fine, but all it really means is that half of you won't learn a fucking thing. Photoshop, Psy, fucking Corel, we never really touched on any of these. And I get that. That's the kind of stuff you really want to figure out on your own. I mean, I certainly could have benefited from some lessons, let's be honest, but it was always the other stuff we were learning. InDesign, Flash, Illustrator, lots of Illustrator. I mean, I guess that's fitting. But it was the techie, thinky kind of shit. Lots of you are going to have trouble with that. We did. Artists don't usually do well thinking in vectors, or precision, or numbers. I loved it. Yes, there are things I loved about college. Save often. I know everyone says they know that, but there's always someone who loses a project the day before it's due and gets completely fucked over because they forgot to back up their shit. I started saving obsessively after a while, tapping Command-S like a fucking nervous tick every couple of minutes. All it takes is losing that one project to make you paranoid. Photoshop. Make friends with Photoshop. As shitty as Adobe has become, they are, for the time being, the accepted standard for art stuff, or one of its competitors. Look, all these programs are basically the same anyway once you learn the different keyboard shortcuts. I don't care if the only art you make is real watercolors of rich people eating pastries or whatever the fuck it is. Let's say you gotta document your work for a portfolio or a gallery submission. You gotta tweak the colors. Fat load of fucking good your Luddite views will do you then. A tablet. Get a tablet. And I don't mean like an iPad, which isn't a tablet, okay? It's a pad. Get a tablet. Seeing people try to draw or edit with a mouse, it's like watching a quadriplegic try to eat with chopsticks. You admire their determination, but god damn, it's depressing. Storage. Lots of it. These days you can fit a terabyte onto something the size of a watch battery, so that won't be too hard. But get a lot, and lots of different ones. Make copies of your shit. Don't leave it hanging around. Things get stolen and lost all the fucking time. Saying, I lost my flash drive, that's like saying, the dog ate my homework. Teachers don't care, and they don't want to hear it. And of course, use this storage to, save your work. Often. Now, I don't like to advocate piracy, but, you know. Yeah. It's generally understood that students steal software because it's expensive as fuck and because they can. I won't pretend I never did. Lots of schools these days give out licenses with their tuitions or offer them at discounted rates, but frankly, with everything going to the subscription model of sales, I'm not even sure that's worth it. I hung on to my copy of CS2 like the whole way through college. Look, all I'm saying is, students are like whores. They're just doing what they have to get by. And did I mention to save your work? In multiple places. Often, obsessively, have it become a problem. Sometimes courses have private labs. Illustration had access to 2 labs. Sometimes people try to sneak in from different programs and use our hardware. It's like, interior design scum, back to your outdated iMac 2s. Get out of here. These were paid for with art kid money. Of course, fighting for a good spot can be rough. When class ends, it's like a mad dash to get to the labs to secure a good spot. You're fucked if you want to go home and eat first. And Jesus Christ, if you have to end up using the common labs, have you been to those places? They're disgusting. A sea of business and humanities majors typing up their fucking meaningless essays, surfing YouTube, running their damn mouths. Oh yes, the perfect environment for being creative. It always turns into a damn battle for territory in the labs anyway, doesn't it? Now they have those hard drives that wipe clean when you log out, but it used to be a constant fight for control of the desktop wallpaper. The thing about computer class is that it never feels like there's incentive to go. I can get in the lab anytime. Don't I have a computer at home? There's tutorials online for days. Why am I even here? It's like, as long as I finish the assignment and hand it in on time, what's the point? I bet computer teachers know this too. I feel bad for them. But don't laugh, smartass. Computers are outmoded faster and faster every year, and so are people. It won't be long before everything you know is abandonware, left to digitally decay on the shoulder of the internet's superhighway. Then you'll be the old fuck without a clue. It'll happen to you. So keep learning new software. Even if you are a traditionalist, Adobe won't be on top forever, and neither will you. And don't forget to save your work, by the way. I don't know if I...
If you follow me on Twitter, maybe you can be in an episode, and you should buy a Technical Dave t-shirt. Thank you.
I was worried the whole time I was dating Nomi. That's normal, I think, for a good relationship. But I'd only had one girlfriend before her, and she had made it no secret that I was lousy. It was my first relationship. So I was 22 years old, struggling between trying to manage grades and just yourself. What do you want to do? Have some fucking fun.
Well, you guys were like, I made it
But it was totally fucking boring. Updating the
Why you equal to y plus half by this
Now, by this point, I was
is like y value. Instead of filling the y value
our ancestors would eat art to make their primitive gods for what they desired.
What would it be called?
A new stick! They were telling their story. Art and religion conjoined at birth with forces so horrifyingly intertwined. The two would forever be one and eventually get a childishly named special on TLC. Every civilization has had their religion. They all made big painted statues of their gods and ornate soul jars or invented new colors because they could just get rid of Jesus' eyes. We all know that shit. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean art school.
What do you have?
I trash in art school. Just noticing some similarities. Like, well, for starters, narrow-minded arrogance. Okay, hang on. You know, let me I was strongly worded. Take that back. What I meant was, self-obsessed, self-glorifying assholes. Whatever, too many teachers are this way, we draw this way, we follow my instructions. This artist is a hack. That movement just they stagnated, they were too fanatical, they were lying to people, they were dangerous, they made people think. We can't have that. Ethical standards are a small price to pay for victory. Always
7 hours.
another similarity. There are sins in art. Non-copy out of a photograph. We all know that. It's basically just thou shalt not steal. But always leave a little room to morality, I'd say. Good old-fashioned theft. Another time in class, gotta move your setup, take a picture, finish that shit off later. And they say, hey man, you copy out a photograph, I'll be able to tell. Bullshit. I never got caught once. I swear.
My Friday night.
Jerking off. Preacher will know. They never know.
It's like 5 minute walk.
Thou shalt not.
I gotta ask them back in
How much do you think it is? I don't know. I've blocked it from my memory.
Don't be.
Like a few other things.
Thou shalt not worship false idols.
Really? Did you just turn your headphones on? When I didn't even say anything? Yes. Oh my boy. You're making me sound like
I got literally wrecked so hard. I got absolutely destroyed.
Why is this not working the way I want it to?
I'm gonna get a mission stat react. And then Andy instantly, literally, this had, look, listen, no, this is not even on the post. This is what Andy messaged me. I hit stat react, I put down my phone, it's in my phone buzzing, so I pick up my phone, and he texts me, when Lily Pan is mentioned and her 4-seaters and you're not one of them, I see that stat react, and I was like, how do you already see that? I'm like, it happened in 30 seconds.
How hyped are you guys for Clash? Not at all. Not at all. I'm a boring person. This is like the biggest event on campus. Get
Here. October. Amy. Here. Lisa. Here. Thomas.
Here. I'm sorry.
Catherine.
It's the baby.
Eden.
Here.
Diane.
According to our laws of aviation.
Tommy.
Here.
Jessica.
Here.
Lucian. Here. Here. Alexander. Eric. Colin.
The B movie 6 advertising drill speeds up by 20%.
Here.
The dance.
So I met your parents, some of your parents
Do you have
Saturday.
theater?
They gave me all kinds of permission to do all kinds of cool things.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to use all of the discretion they gave me, but you know, I appreciate that. A few announcements. I asked you to look at the prompt for the first essay. Okay. That is going to be due somewhere around the last week in February. I say somewhere around then because you have like a extended break at the end of February, and you come back on that Tuesday, and I'm gone that whole week.
For why?
I'm at a conference. Actually, it's an awful conference. And the only good part is that I'm going to be in Phoenix, which is like. I imagine. But this has been a very dangerously warm winter. I hope it does snow.
Global warming is great.
We're in desperate need of like actual winter weather. Climate change, folks. Does this not bother you?
Literally first week of winter I made the joke and then everyone just kind of stared at me like that was politically incorrect. But it's not.
The math science, Debbie, right?
I care about the fish dying. That's my number one. I want to say fish. If I say the fish, then save all the other.
It's true, yeah, the ocean.
All I do is say the fish, and everything works.
There's a lot involved there.
Can it save my will to live? What are you putting me on? What?
We need to move all the coral water.
Kevin Boy keeps putting me on the fence that I don't know what I'm
to coral
I
water.
feel like the first edition of Aquaman, the
Oh,
only
I
goal
already
is
did
to like
that.
make the ocean.
Why does
I just read an
always
article
show
about
the
it.
HTML?
He's one of my
Because
favorites.
this is
He's like the butt of jokes for ages. You know?
Ew.
They're trying to make him.
I mean, I'd be down for it, but like, I don't know why he's putting
He's
me
very,
on
very
this
important in
when
the
he
book. Every
doesn't
other
even tell me.
Yeah, so
I'm
important.
gonna fight him. Tell me he calls out.
Make sure I will ask you momentarily if you have questions about the prompt, but the due date's going to be coming up. I am going to give you some preliminary stuff to go to. The other thing is there's a constitution test that you're also going to be told. That is going to come up in early March, and so you should know that that's coming too.
No, thank you.
Okay. All the study stuff is already in Google if you want to look at it, but we've already been covering the stuff that you're going to need. All historical stuff. All of that is moving towards the Constitution. So, do you have any questions about that? Yes.
What's the question?
As long as it's not Aquaman.
Not Aquaman related. That's
Is it about the class?
It is about
Okay.
this is you mentioned a quiz coming up this week.
That's right. On
How soon can we make that?
no, the quiz will be on Thursday.
Thursday?
And it will cover the stuff from last week, not today. Will not be. Okay, so Thursday quiz on the stuff from last week. So I was telling you last week about the larger context, the European power contest that ultimately is shaping the political world that the colonists are in, and how the 7 Years' War ultimately ends up being becoming this very important event. And among the issues that comes out of that war, well, two things. One was that proclamation line, which a lot of colonists were in. The other, I never actually told you, the second one is that the first reaction of the British is to figure out a way to pay down that debt that they have for fighting the war based on these loans. So the first thing they decide to do is tax the indigenous people. They're going to put a tax on their trading goods. And the result is interesting. The Indians say, we're paying twice as much for the goods that we did before, so we're not really happy. And they rise in revolt. And it was a very unified effort. It was known as Pontiac's Rebellion. Pontiac is yes, the car company is named after this guy. So there are a few really interesting things that come out of this rebellion. One is it's a unified active resistance by these indigenous people. It's their last victory against a European power. There was this guy, Ian Steele, wrote an interesting book called Warpath some years ago, and he argued that we usually have this idea that Europeans arrive and all of the people living in the Americas are completely overwhelmed. And he argues, it's kind of a military history, he argues that far from being overwhelmed, they actually held off the Europeans for 3 centuries. and offers evidence after evidence. He kind of hits you really over the head with a massive amount of evidence, so I find it very convincing. So it's their last victory. But the other part is, as a victory, it means that the British now are going to retreat from that form of tax on the goods with these people. And they're going to come up with another way to pay for this debt that they have. And it's going to lead to a series of very tense, or increasingly tense, debates, and in some cases resistance, that is going to ultimately set the colonies on the road to independence. So let me give you the snapshot. Yes. No. The British are the ones with the debt. They're the ones with the debt because they fought the war with this by borrowing some money. They're private entities, bankers. So English banks, probably Dutch banks as well. I don't know exactly where all this comes from, but we're looking at private banking, which was a relatively new concept. This idea of using private banks. This emerges in the 16th, 17th centuries, and it's going to create this commercial revolution that's going to be important for the Industrial Revolution later on. Nobody, because the monarchs, though, were the ones who were always paying for things and assumed the debts, the idea of like borrowing money from a bank was a very foreign idea, so this is very original that they came up with this. The problem is, now they have to figure out a way to pay it back. So they decide, you need revenues, taxes are the way to the revenue, they'll tax the indigenous people and they will pay for the goods, and then that will be a way to make up some need for funds. Instead, they're going to back off that tax and they're going to introduce something that's called a Revenue Act. And then there will be a series of these. So then it's going to be a Stamp Act and then the Quartering Act. Each one of these is kind of responsive to that. The Townshend Act, I'm missing one on there, which is further down in the policy. There are going to be a couple, there's going to be the Boston Massacre, actually another very similar event in New York, which I'll talk about. Eventually the Tea Act, and then finally there's going to be the Coercive Act, which happened the same year as another act called the Quebec Act, which wasn't officially one of the coercive acts, but a lot of colonists will consider it intolerable and therefore a lot like the other coercive acts, and they'll put them all together. So there's this increasing tension that comes with the, let's just say for the moment, the British government looking for a way out of their financial situation and finding that the colonists at every turn are thwarting them in some way. And the resistance becomes more and more intense. At one point, I'll mention this, they think that they found a way forward in the Tea Act. The British are convinced that this is the answer to the problems, and it doesn't work either. There's one other aspect to this, which is that the Declaration of Independence, which we'll look at, cites the king as the problem. It says, look, we're declaring independence against His Majesty, who has done all of these terrible things. What's interesting about that is that if you look at all of the documents leading up to the Declaration, all of their debates are never about the king. All of their concerns are about Parliament. And the reason this is a big deal is because going all the way back, really to the Magna Carta, a people's body, like the Parliament, was always seen as the protection against the capriciousness and the authority of the king. And what happens in this crisis is Parliament stops being seen as the friend of the people and starts being seen as the enemy of the people. And this is what is going to cause this turn. When Parliament can't resolve the issues and they start seeing the Parliament itself as their enemy, it becomes clear they have to do something.
Was the Parliament against, like, the people saw them against the people and the king, or just were they just against the people?
So, one The Declaration can really be seen, I mean, it's an important document, and it does something historically that nobody had done before. But in some respects, obviously it's about independence, so it's a politicized document, but it's politicized in the sense that they had never been complaining about the king up to that point. And now suddenly the king is responsible for all the things they've been blaming Parliament for. So it shifts the blame in a very Lockean way, which is we're breaking the social contract, and we're blaming the king. It's not about Parliament anymore, it's the king. And by blaming the king and declaring, because they always, you'll notice in all the documents, they always refer to themselves as His Majesty's loyal subjects. And with the Declaration, they're not referring to themselves as His Majesty's loyal subjects anymore, because they're no longer interested in, one, His Majesty, or two, being loyal subjects. And so they've taken what had been problems with Parliament and converted it to problems with the monarchy. Obviously, because it is a monarchy, the crown bears responsibility for things, even if the Parliament is doing it. But what the colonists are going to do is, this is all parliamentary tension. It's not really monarchy, but they will lay it at the feet of the king later on. Understanding how they get from point A to point B is what I want to do. What I did this morning, I'm going to use again, which is I'm going to have each table look at one of these acts to tell us a little bit, what did it do, what was its main goal, and did it actually succeed the way it was supposed to, so what happens with it. So I'm going to give your table the Revenue Act. I'm going to give you the Stamp Act. We're actually going to spend quite a bit of time on Stamp Act, but just give us the overview. I'm going to give you the Quartering Act, Townsend Act, the Tea Act, and then if you would look at not just the coercive acts, but also the Advocate Act also. Yeah. The colonists will call them the Intolerable Acts, so I have that name there. But officially it's the Coercive Act. The Quebec Act is considered one of them, although the colonists will consider that No, this is not on Moodle. In this case, you need to go online and find out a little bit about it.
Nope. Huh? I didn't think it was that bad.
I told her I didn't have it. She's like, just take it. So it's her fault. Right?
Yeah, everything is usually Krause's fault.
I told her that I need an extension. And she was like, oh no, you're probably fine.
Yeah, she's terrible. Who is? Krause. If you ever need to get out of a test, just like take a stress mod. Go to sleep. She won't let you get out of it. So, boss, what exactly, how much do we need to know? I don't know. Basically, they put a bunch of taxes on stuff, and then the colonists are like, no, please don't do that. And then the Brits are like, okay, we won't do that, but still, you gotta pay for tea. And they're like, no, we're gonna fight you.
Oh my god, is that why? And then American. And now it's coffee.
Probably.
Oh my god. So every time I drink coffee, it sings.
Essentially. So, like, Americans thought that Parliament was being dumb and abusing their power and putting a crap ton of taxes on them.
Wow, that never happens anymore.
Basically, it was like just a bunch of taxes on stuff, and they were like, hey, we don't want to spend money on you.
And then,
you're going to spend money on yourself.
No, they're taxing everything.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of stuff was being taxed, and then they, like, stopped taxing all that and then just taxed tea. But then that still made the colonists rebel because they're like, no, we don't want this. Are you okay?
Yes. I keep making really bad jokes in my head that I need to stop making. I'm not crazy, I swear.
If you get to the extra credit question,
So yeah, they repealed all the taxes except the tax on tea,
because tea is
which it retained room to assert its right to tax the colonies. So
Yeah, that's totally
basically-
assertive, the taking away everything except for one thing.
No, yeah, it is because the colonists are like, no, we want no taxes, and they're like, fuck you, we're still in charge, you still gotta pay for tea, haha, suckers.
so they're just really passive aggressive.
Right, it was just really petty of them to take everything except for tea. And then they just dump all their tea in the thing.
And then Starbucks happened.
Yes.
If you want to make people angry, take all taxes away except for something that you really need, like tax food or something.
But we could try taxing Starbucks, but it's really super expensive, so
You're not wrong. Yeah, so then this led up to the revolution because the Americans kept resisting the tax on tea. They're like, no, we won't pay your stupid taxes. And then the Brits were like, pay our stupid taxes. And America is like, we're through, we're out of this relationship.
I'm breaking up with you.
Yeah, essentially.
Pay taxes. I didn't hear what you said, and I don't know if I want to.
I just heard Taylor Swift, and I already know what you mean.
It's during class.
Yeah, usually text.
Oh, still
They said
talking?
they wanted. Are you ready?
So good.
Okay. So tell us about the Revenue Act.
Well, it just actually was considered in the
Okay.
tax. This is like charge taxes on molasses, but it wasn't
Lead.
very enforced. So when the molasses taxes expired, after it expired, they enacted the revenue and sugar tax.
And that was from, I think, 1733.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like our Sugar Act, and they dropped the tax from 6 pence to 3 pence, but they actually collect the 3 pence, and also now it's not just sugar that they're taxing, but they're also like wine, cloth, coffee, foods, and soap. So it causes like a lot of economic hardship in the colonies, because
So the amount of tax goes down, but it taxes a number of more things than it did before.
so it's overall worse.
And it's being enforced, which is also what's happening with the Navigation Acts, where they had previously more or less been very lax, and now they're actually starting to enforce it. So they recognize that they don't necessarily have to do more. They just need to enforce what they already have. And they think that they're doing everyone a favor by actually decreasing the amount of the tax. But of course, how does it work out?
It doesn't work out very well for the colonies because now there's like a bunch of taxes that are paying and they can't export as many things.
Well, there ends up being particular resistance. Where is the resistance? See that?
There's something like a leader in Massachusetts or something. A boycott of British goods.
Okay, so the opening of this kind of political resistance boycotts begins here. But one of the reasons they end up not pursuing this route is actually because there was resistance on the other side of the Atlantic in England.
Because with the Molasses Act, everything was chill, but then with the Sugar Act, it made it worse for both sides.
So it's in England actually where there's even more resistance than in the colonies. Therefore, they decide, okay, if that's not working, we're going to try something else.
Wait, so are they taxing both England and the colonies?
if I remember correctly, in England, it's not about the tax, it was an administrative issue. The resistance was more indirect. There was some aspect to it in which they were more bothered by it, but I don't think it had to do with the revenue.
Would you know any examples more lenient people didn't want before?
So, remember I told you about the Navigation Act? And so one of the things that those have been on the books, but in a lot of cases it's lax enforcement. What happens is, the reason John Hancock is one of the people who gets in trouble is because the British had started enforcing them more rigorously and made sure that they were simply making an effort to actually collect this money, whereas before it wasn't their primary concern. So it's like, think of how many of you have driver's licenses? Only a few. Okay. As you will soon discover, there are particular times and particular geographic spaces that seem to concern police. So your local police force would basically be saying, at the beginning of the month, we're not really interested in speed traps and writing a bunch of tickets right now. But later in the month, as they get to the end of the calendar month, they decide that they're going to write more tickets. This is actually true. They prefer to write parking tickets because while there's less revenue, people are less likely to contest them in court. Traffic tickets are much more resource demanding because people are likely to go to court and contest the speeding tickets. Therefore, it means the police officer is actually taken out of his being sent to the court and has to spend the day trying to defend the ticket, and they may end up not actually collecting the money. So it turns out that speeding tickets are not necessarily the best way to be used in the revenue. However, if you wanted to pursue that route, you can simply write more of them. Okay? This is the British colonial equivalent of that. Okay, the big one, yes. Huh? There was a boycott on the English side and protests as well. I'm assuming it probably has to do with the added effect. So while on the one hand you're asking the colonists to actually pay for these goods, it's also meaning an increase in the prices on the other side. And so my guess is everyone's unhappy on both sides of the trade deal. I don't actually know specifically what happens on the other side. The big one that's really going to set things going, during the 7 Years' War, Benjamin Franklin was actually calling for a meeting of all of the colonies at Albany, New York. And they were known as Franklin's Albany Plan. The war ended, though, before they could actually have this big meeting. But what's going to happen with the Stamp Act is that it's going to put in motion what Franklin had been calling for, and eventually Franklin's Albany Plan and the Stamp Act are going to prompt the creation of what's going to become the Continental Congress. So the Stamp Act is in a major change in the relations, and this is where Parliament starts being seen as the law. So could you tell us about the Stamp Act?
So the Stamp Act is the first additional tax that directly put on American colonists by the British government, and it taxed like every printed piece of paper.
So first thing, let's do this. One of the debates is going to be about internal versus external taxes. External, let's think of that as navigation acts. Internal should be like in the colonies. where they're actually paying some amount of, like, what, 3 cents on a bottle of wine. So the terms internal, external are going to be used, and and I think the proper interpretation is that the internal, external argument is actually secondary to the point. The British are going to get hung up thinking that what the colonists are upset about is internal taxes. And it turns out the colonists have a lot more grievances that go beyond just whether or not it's an internal, external tax, although part of the debate will be about it. But the nature of the discussion is going to turn out to be, one, representation, two, shortage of funds to actually pay for the taxes, and which is, it's not so much where the tax takes place, because but it's going to be about revenue and whether or not that is okay. They see this as, well, it's just extraction of revenue, and that was never part of the deal, because we're already taxing ourselves in the colony. Therefore, the Parliament coming along and adding another tax, and you'll also see there's a certain amount of ingratitude that's going around this as well. But the Stamp Act is a tax on all paper goods, anything. But it's going to require being paid in hard currency. And what did I tell you about hard currency last week? Coins. There's not enough. Spanish dollar is the default currency, and so coming up with the coins to actually pay for the stamps are going to be a practical problem, even aside from what it is that they're actually asking.
Do you mean grocery lists and stuff like that, or buy pieces of paper? What do you mean?
Any commercial transaction you can think of that involves paper. So if you need to get a license of some kind, there's a stamp tax on it. If you buy a deck of cards to go play, peanut with your friends at the pub, there's a tax on it. That would have been very popular. But anyway, so what's that? No, but if you were buying paper, there would be a tax on it, right? So there's a tax on anything involving paper, which means it's hitting everyone. What's that? They're hitting everyone, but the problem is they don't even have the coins to actually pay for it. And so this is going to really anger the colonists. And I'll give you an example of this shortly. So, how does it end? What happens to Stamp Act? The Declaratory Act. So they're going to repeal it and issue, it's not on my list, they're going to issue the Declaratory Act, which isn't an act that actually taxes anything. It's simply a declaration of their right to tax the colonists, which of course they always had, but they wanted to restate it so the colonists actually had it at their attention. So in the course of the Stamp Act being issued, here's one of the events that's going to occur. So August 14th of 1765, there is a demonstration, and the demonstrators hang an effigy. What's an effigy? It looks kind of like a scarecrow. It's stuffed, it's wearing clothing. It's intended, though, to represent a specific person, so they'll try to dress it like that person, and then they'll put a sign around the thing's neck with the person's name on it or something like that. They will parade it around, and usually at the end of the night, they'll set it on fire. In this case, Andrew Oliver, who was a local stamp distributor, so they paraded out around the city. The other thing these protesters were doing is periodically picking up stones and pelting them at the officials. Now, if they were actually hitting the officials, hurting them, I don't actually know, but I know that they were throwing stones. But think stones, not rocks, stones. stones would be small as opposed to something that could actually, damage your head. On August 26th, so we're looking at less than 2 weeks later, there's a mob that attacks several customs officers and then destroys the house of Lieutenant Governor Thomas Hutchins. Do you notice a difference between these two events? Yes, the second one would seem to have ratcheted up the violence quite significantly. It turns out there's also a copycat effect. The same thing is going to happen in a number of city capitals. But these two particular events have been studied. And one of the things we find out is that the first group, people Pelton-Rotten and the effigy, tended to be professionals. In professions, craftsmen, merchants, lawyers. The second group were laborers, working class, demographic. And they're a little bit more intense. Now, two things. There's one for the colonial side and one for the British imperial side that are consequences of this. One is that on the British imperial side, the stamp collectors were so terrorized by these events that nobody could be found to actually administer the tax when it was supposed to go into effect on November 1st. Therefore, nobody ends up collecting any stamp taxes. And as you pointed out, the response by the British government is going to be the Declaratory Act, which says, okay, fine, we're going to rescind this tax, but we still reserve the right to do whatever we want because we are, after all, the government. On the domestic side, on the colonial side of this, the other thing that's going to happen is the creation of the Sons of Liberty. They form during this crisis, in part because of those two different crowds. The professionals, the merchants and lawyers and so on, are terrified that the common laborers might target them at some point in the future. In fact, it actually happens, I forget the exact date, but Benjamin Franklin nearly ends up attacked by a mob because he's associated with being, the Philadelphia elite. That they see him as part of the problem. And one of the leaders of the Sons of Liberty convinces his group that Franklin is the wrong target and they should put their anger somewhere else, that Franklin is actually an ally.
Why did this person do that?
This guy?
Yeah, why did he convince him that he was an ally?
Because he was a friend of Franklin's. And he says, look, the fact was Franklin is running a printing press in Philadelphia. When Thomas Paine was writing his revolutionary pamphlets, it's Benjamin Franklin is the guy who's actually printing them up. Franklin is committed to the revolution. The problem he has is that as a colonial elite, some people see him as part of the problem. The whole point of the creation of the Sons of Liberty is to direct the anger in the proper place towards the government, not towards each other. This was something sorely lacking during the French Revolution, which is why the French Revolution is turning out so bloody. There was, however, another group of people who didn't like to be told what to do by anyone, and they had their own kind of way of doing things. Do you remember when we were talking about Virginia and the Bacon's Rebellion, when I mentioned that there were a few, we looked at I mentioned the people who were executed, and I said there are a few groups of people that are kind of represented here. One of them was like Cromwell's soldiers. And then there was another group, do you remember who it was? Sailors. They're going to form the Sons of Neptune. Yes. I know, we're all thinking, I love Percy Jackson. So the Sons of Neptune are actually going to be kind of a much more radical response than the Sons of Liberty. And they are going to do serious damage. And nobody tells the Sons of Neptune what to do. Fortunately for everyone, there aren't that many of them. Otherwise the revolution would have been really revolutionary. In a way, you could actually think of the Sons of Neptune as a gang, but a very political gang. sailors will show up again in a later PowerPoint where they start indiscriminately beating people up.
Are we talking about modern day game or like?
Did you ever see Gangs of New York? Martin Scorsese.
But it's still a game. How come some of the games are
These aren't like, what? Tommy guns. No, they're not like that. And they're not running organized crime. This isn't organized crime kind of games. This is more like, street gangs kind of games. Except political. You ask a question that's begging for an analogy, and then I give it to you, and then it's like, we don't like your analogy.
They don't have a plan, they just don't like crime.
So that's a stamp fact. We are going to look at some more documents, and we're going to see the political crisis as it plays out. The Quartering Act, what happens?
So basically, the colonists are required to house the British soldiers and also feed them. And then problems arose because apparently some found that it violated like some of the rights in like the Bill of Rights and stuff. So that's why like that was like a big problem.
Yeah, wasn't this mentioned like several times already in previous, English documents? And so this would seem to be a direct violation of what the English would consider their rights. What is there a response?
Yeah, a lot of governors in different colonies try to halt this being put in place. So like in and then when they were forced to comply later.
And the result is actually going to be colonial resistance, where people are taunting the soldiers. They're putting up liberty poles, which are these kind of symbolic, they basically like flagpoles, but they would have some kind of symbol at the top. And the British soldiers, in response, are taking down liberty poles and finding themselves being, accosted in some way or abused by the colonists. When that heats up, you know what happens here at the Boston Massacre.
What?
People die.
Like the British shoot like sticks, civilians, like
Okay, so you have these people taunting the soldiers. The soldiers lose their cool. They open fire and they kill 5 colonists. Only 5. That's what the student said this morning. Like, we don't put a number on a massacre. We can still call it a massacre.
I thought it like a small.
What were they?
Morning activity.
They were they were protesting the quartering of soldiers, but so there's resentment about the soldiers' presence. The second thing is that the soldiers also tended to be only part-time soldiers, so they would compete for work with the local people because they're not actually being paid enough. And one of the reasons they're being quartered is because the British government doesn't want to spend the money to actually build them the barracks and make the full effort. And so the resentment occurs on several levels.
Weren't they also the soldiers were told not to shoot or not to hurt anybody?
Yeah, so the shooting at the Boston Massacre is an accident. I mean, it's not like they set out to go and shoot the colonists. But 2 of the soldiers are eventually convicted, and there are some consequences, including being branded on the hand.
Oh my God.
But their captain is acquitted. Do you know who the defense attorney was?
Your mom.
John Adams. the guy who will go on to be president, but also he's the first person who will use the term revolution the way we use it today. What's that? In the literal sense, as in around. He's the first one to. It was going through kind of a transition after the English Civil War, and Adams, according to the scholars who looked at this, is the first one to use the phrase American Revolution in the sense that we understand it as a change in politics, which is just they would refer to rebellions or civil war. The English Civil War is called the English Civil War for a reason, which is nobody would call it a revolution. Now we tend to think of revolutions as successful civil wars, but we also use that to mean it didn't revolve in terms of going in full circle. It revolved in that it changed. He's the one who does that. But he was also their defense attorney.
With the African soldiers, were any of the soldiers honest, or everyone hated everything?
Have any of you seen this television series called Turn? Okay, Turn is awesome because I had been talking for years about basically telling the story of the revolution from the point of view of the spies. And now, not only did someone write a book, but it was turned into a television series, so there's no reason for me to do that. But anyway, at one point in the series, they actually show you a soldier who's actually quartered in their house. Have you seen this part? No. The soldier is somewhat modest. They make some historical changes because the people involved in the series are actually real people. The spy ring, that was a real spy ring. But they make a few changes, like they turn his wife into a monarchist. So they have the spy, his wife, and they have this domestic tension because the wife actually supports the crown, and that was made up in the series. They also have a soldier quartered in their house. So while that's fictional, I think it's representative too that, okay, the soldiers recognize that they're being put there. It's not like they're asking to be in these people's houses. I think that in some cases there will be people welcoming them, but the problem was in Massachusetts in particular, it becomes hard as tensions escalate to actually find somebody who supports the crown. If you wanted to find monarchists, you went to New York. Hamilton has one of the reasons he's drafting what he's involved in writing the Federalist Papers is because he's trying to convince New Yorkers that they should adopt the Constitution. One colony doesn't vote for independence. Guess who it was? No, New York. Independence gets 12 votes, and one votes to abstain. They're like, no, we're not voting. Because we don't want to vote for independence. New York had plenty of people who would have been sympathetic to border soldiers. In Massachusetts, not so much. And so the resentment was a little deeper. So it's probably more of an answer to you. Did I get someone to Townsend Acts?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about Townsend Acts?
So basically, the English put taxes on things such as glass, lead, paints, and paper, and also tea. And the colonists didn't like that, so they rebelled against it. To which the English Parliament responded by taking away all the taxes except for the tax on tea. Now, this sort of resulted in like a truce up until 3 years later. So this was originally made in 1767, but then in 1770 they rebelled and they're like, no more tax.
By 1770, we get these two events. The Boston Massacre is this rebellion against the quartering troops, which I mentioned. The Battle of Golden Hill is less known. It was just a few weeks before, and it was basically the same kind of incident. The difference was that while the troops opened fire, nobody died, and so no massacre. So no massacre at Golden Hill. Although it
Did they miss or they?
No, I think people might have been injured, but nobody died.
They were obviously stormtroopers.
And so without the deaths, it doesn't have the kind of symbolic power that the Boston Massacre has.
Did they have like the sniper bullets yet, or they still use like the? You know what I'm talking about? How you had like the.
No,
they're all.
They're using the muscle balls, so those ones you're talking about.
Muskets with just the round pellets are standard.
It's really hard.
That's weird.
No, they're only 30.
Okay, question, okay? This would be a good, I'm going to talk to Dr. Dawn. This will make a great SI physics.
No.
You're playing dodgeball.
No, I'm not.
I know you're being that game. Okay, you're playing dodgeball, and somebody throws the ball really fast.
How fast?
Huh?
Really fast.
But it's not likely to kill you, right?
Yeah, so why do they use?
No, you didn't let me finish my.
But I didn't let you get headshot.
Now, somebody decides, some enterprising Amstud student decides, wow, how much cooler this game would be if we had a device that would shoot the dodgeball at about, I don't know, 300 times faster.
Oh, so it really is like a.
So pellets don't seem like they're gonna hurt you.
No.
Now just make them go really fast. And unlike the dodgeball, they're not rubber, they're like
No, this doesn't make it stop. I didn't sign up for this. Make it
yes, but
stop.
they're taking issue with the fact that it's round as opposed to like, pointy.
Yo, why was it actually without that or something?
That's what
It started round. It's only later that they realized they can make it. Because they're first of all, you're clearly going to be taking
Sniff is getting worse.
I get that. That's a question for Dr. Rex. But
I want
there's engineering
English
involved in
teachers
making
to
it work.
teach physics and physics teachers to teach English. Oh my god.
Like in English, you're like.
Internet Explorer is part of the problem and needs Please tell that yourself.
It's easier to make. Watching the cheaper is easier. Where were we? Townsend Act. So it starts to get more serious. Eventually, the T Act. Is that you? T Act. Okay.
Okay, so
You should like my baseball profile picture.
So basically the
We
TIAC,
should?
so the British East India Company, they were going bankrupt. So the British government passed a law that they wouldn't have to pay their tax to the British government, which resulted in a monopoly. Yeah, so for the monopoly, they could go lower or higher the tax. Yeah, and they decide, and the king goes, they decide to sell Mohawk Indians, and then there's a story of the American
Which then the Boston Harbor is then shut down, and they're told that they have to pay for all the TV they destroy. But they actually thought, the British government actually thought they had finally come up with a winning formula. They're like, wait a minute, here's this tea company. They have a bunch of extra tea, which they need to get rid of because they're having trouble financially. So we'll give them a monopoly in the colonies, and the colonists won't be able to complain because the prices are going to be so cheap. It'll be great. We finally have a win-win situation. Why doesn't it work?
Because there was a duty on the tea entering the colonies, but it removed the duty of
There is that, But it also has the other problem, monopolies, which they don't like. And they're like, okay, yeah, it's cheap now, but at some point in the future, then they're going to jack up the price. And then what? So now it's cheap,
Then you buy
later they're
the
going to charge us more, so we don't like this whole monopoly idea. The other problem was that, well, smuggling. There were a whole lot of people making money on smuggled tea that was relatively cheap. And this tea was going to be so cheap that the smugglers were going to be losing money. They weren't happy. So again, think John Hancock. So there were a number of people who were affected by this who found this off-putting. We need to get to your last group because I don't know anything. So tell us about the back act.
Is it good news? Did they hear my
The back act gave Quebec a lot of land, like a lot of land. Like basically, now it's into the British and gave them.
Okay, but they're British, so who cares? Why is it a problem?
Oh, because the Protestants in the colonies that were monarch was favoring.
Because they also allowed them to stay Roman Catholic. It actually says we're not going to do anything to infringe on your right to be Catholics. And everyone is against this except for Maryland. Because Maryland was a Catholic. So everyone else is like, no, that's not okay. We hate Catholics. We always hate Catholics. Never actually spoken to one, but we don't like them. And so this is a serious. What's that? Well, what happens is Maryland ends up being overrun by Protestants. And it's no longer a Catholic colony. That's the reality. Yeah. And coerced facts?
One of them, like the Richard Rowe that we prosecuted.
Yep.
She's had their trials in different states or even in Great Britain. And then it's like so much more expensive for people like common day workers to even attend that they just want to get off that.
So remember, one of the things they're concerned about in all of our documents up to this point about rights has to do with due process, trial by jury, and here they're not only do they not get a jury trial, but they're supposed to be extradited and brought back to London. So how can you get a trial by your peers if your peers are like, across the sea? Or
Carefully.
They're not even peers. So this ends up being a serious violation from their perspective. So the Coercive Acts and the Quebec Act are both going to be more of this kind of intense anti-British sentiment. Within a year, they're going to be shooting at them. Okay, 1775 is when the fighting actually begins. So here's what we need to. You're leaving. So I need a book. Give me your book.
I need to read it.
For next class. Beginning of class quiz over what we did last week. I told you that already. The next thing is I'm going to give you a document, page 404, page 407, page 410, page 413, page 418,
What page are we?
413.
413. Yeah.
That's the page number.
413?
Yeah.
I'm giving you the page. No, I'm giving you the page number of the document.
Oh my god. 4 means 10 and 13 is like that. This is great.
I think you're on your way out. I'm just giving you the page number of the document that gets up. 418. No. Just the one document on that page.
Jacqueline, I need you to come and look at something. I need you to come look at something.
Afraid.
Don't be afraid.
Be afraid. Be terrified. Have you seen it?
Don't get mad. Get glad. Jacqueline, look. Jacqueline, come and look, Jacqueline. Jacqueline, look.
Pure unadulterated hell.
Look at the 3D I did with the Windows Microsoft.
Cool.
You didn't make me late. I'm late.